Saddle up your horses.
Pitter patter, let's get at her. It is another episode of the Manley Broncos podcast, and we are excited because in this episode, we have a guest, and we are going to be talking about the trenches, and we are going to be talking about the offensive line, defensive line, and what better person to talk about that than a member of the Let's Talk Broncos podcast, and also one who admittedly said that he can beat a kangaroo in a one-on-one battle. It is none other than Joey Richards of Let's Talk Broncos. Joey, my man, you are repping obviously the NBA Finals hat. I took a step above and obviously decided to wear the NBA Championship hat. But mad props to you to
respect.
But is it true that I fabricate this? You actually can. You actually think that you can beat a kangaroo in a one-on-one battle?
Cam, not only can I beat a kangaroo, it's a one-round knockout. I'll be honest with these kangaroos, bro. Here's the issue. People keep, ever since I've said this, my DMs flooded with pictures of this kangaroo, and you can already tell it's wrong because they're looking up like kangaroo height, and then the answer is how tall can kangaroos get? You're already wrong. You know what I mean? Like, that's like if the kangaroos were walking around looking up how big humans can get, and then it was just a picture of Yao Ming. Stop sending me the Hulk Hogan GMO kangaroos. I don't care about those. That's what we do not care about. I'm talking about the average kangaroo. That's what I'm talking about. Me versus the average kangaroo. I'm coming out first round knockout. It's a W.
You know what idea I had as we were starting the show? You know who you should have this discussion with? Bill Kolar.
Yeah, you think so? Why? Does he think, is he like a
Bill Kolar literally wrestled a bear, man. If anyone's gonna give you the perspective of what it's gonna be like to fight an animal, this bro literally fought a bear. Like, I feel like a bear is gonna be harder than a kangaroo. So you should, if anyone's gonna have that discussion with you, you should definitely talk to Bill Kolar about that. That would be, I would love to see that discussion.
I will say you kind of went in depth in your true breakdown between yourself and the kangaroo, and you kind of went through the height, you went through the measurables, and it was a little bit favorable. I have to say, if you look off the naked eye with not even looking at the fact that their leg power is about as strong as Drago's PSI and in Rocky. I mean, aside from that, I mean, it seems pretty even, right? I mean, you said it yourself. I mean,
listen, here's the thing, dude. Like, with the kangaroos, it's that I'm not getting into a kicking competition with the kangaroo. That's my main argument. Like, of course, they have stronger legs than me, but I've seen these kangaroos fight. They grab each other by the shoulders and just kick each other in the chest. I'm not going rock and sock with the kangaroos. Like, I have a brain, you know what I mean? Like, what happens now if I juke to the right, juke to the left? Like, that's my main point. These kangaroos, I don't know. I think everyone's seen the video of when that kangaroo had the dog in a headlock and that guy gave it a one piece to the face and it was done.
Mm-hmm.
That's my point. I've seen a lot more videos of humans just like these kangaroos spooked of these humans and the humans spooked the kangaroos.
I don't know if it was just like he was done. I don't even know if he was spooked. I think it was more he was just like, the fuck is this shit?
Bro,
like, that was the look on his face. Yeah. So what you're saying is, in this fight, you're Steve Atwater and the kangaroo is Christian Okoye.
Yeah, I'm saying that this kangaroo is D'Angelo Russell and I'm Bruce Brown. I'm saying a lot of different things right now. I don't stand by it. Everyone keeps sending me. I said this earlier, but everyone keeps sending me the Hulk
roided out one
kangaroo. Like, oh, you think you could beat this up? No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the kangaroo that's been through 2-a-day Joe Rogan workouts. That's not what I'm good on that. I'm talking about the regular kangaroo.
Oh man! So obviously we are going to be spending an entire podcast talking
Oh
about Joey versus the Kangaroo. We'll be talking about some Denver Broncos, and a reminder to everybody in reading that clicker down below that if you guys are watching on Twitter, first and foremost, thank you guys so much for watching us on Twitter. But second thing is, unfortunately, if you guys are commenting on Twitter, your comments will not be shown on the broadcast. So if you guys would like to, hop over to YouTube and go to the MHRT Network page and hit the subscribe button, because thank you first and foremost, and then go watch our stream currently right now with the famous Joey Richards, who literally said himself that he could beat a kangaroo, and enjoy the show. But so first thing first, we are doing a training camp preview, and since considering, we are weeks out, we figure we do a little bit of a deep dive, like kind of focus show by show breakdown, looking at different pieces of the Broncos. I think last week it kind of felt right to kind of talk about, the quarterback, the running back, wide receiver. And when you kind of talked about that, it kind of felt like you were leaving out the tight end position. So we included the tight end position. And I will say, before we dive into the trenches, when we dive deep into the trenches, Joey, let's at least get your perspective. When you look at the playmakers part of this, the quarterback, the wide receiver, the running back, the tight ends, how many do you think we're keeping? And is there a particular room that excites you the most?
Yeah. So across the offensive trenches, if I'm looking at that, I think the tight end position is going to be better than years in the past. I really do. When you're looking at, I feel like the Broncos always get stuck in this position where they're looking for the do-it-all tight end. Tell me if I'm wrong. How many good do-it-all tight ends are there actually? That's something I always ask myself. It feels like those guys that are like, oh yeah, he can block a little, he can catch a little, they're good. No, they end up actually not being good at anything. They're below average at everything, and that feels like something the Broncos have been in years in the past. Compared to this year where Greg Dulcich is a passing target, and then you have a Chris Manhertz who is a run blocker. I know I can guarantee that those two guys are going to be good in those two particular skills. So I'm excited about the tight end room in particular. If I'm looking across the offensive line, I think the starting five is a lot better than years in the past. I think the addition of Cam Fleming it's massive. He was a guy that started last year for the Broncos, and he offers depth. The main issue I am highlighting there is, where is your depth across the interior defensive line? Do you guys think that Luke Wattenberg can come in and be a good backup? That's kind of where I'm questioning at the moment across the interior offensive line.
Oh, yeah. And that's a nice little setup to what we'll obviously talk about with the offensive line. And you know what? Let's just go into it. Since you did bring up the offensive line, let's just start there. Let's just go into the offensive line. Obviously, the Broncos, the depth had been something of a concern in years past, right? Like they weren't sure about the guard depth. Obviously, tackle depth has been something, that has, been many question marks. And I know that some people have felt that maybe the tackle position is maybe the best position in terms of position groups, that's on the Broncos roster. I don't know if I agree with that per se.
Across the whole roster?
But I mean, I think that, if you look at, say, the fact that they were able to sign Cam Fleming, it does soften the blow a little bit, obviously, because of that depth, at the tackle position, and losing Calvin Anderson, to the New England Patriots. So let's just start on the outside and maybe work our way in. Obviously, Garrett Bowles, is going to be your left tackle. He's coming back from injury.
Right.
But in free agency, they went out and spent that money. They went out and spent that money again on right tackle, just like they did. And sorry to give anybody that's a Broncos fan PTSD on this one. A big money deal to another right tackle being Mike McGlinchey. So Mike McGlinchey comes from San Francisco and Levi Stadium to play at Empower Field at Mile High to be the right tackle for the Denver Broncos. And obviously they re-signed Cam Fleming, lost Calvin Anderson. We'll start with you, Joey, since you are the guest, but where do you currently sit with the tackle position?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was an upgrade immediately, right? I think Cam Fleming was a starting tackle last year, and you got an upgrade in Mike McGlinchey. Garrett Bowles being back in any capacity will be an upgrade for this offensive line. Where my worry comes from, and I'm a little more negative on the Mike McGlinchey signing than others, right? Is just how much exactly is he better than Cam Fleming? And I'm vocal about that. I really don't. I think he's better. I just don't know how much better. Mike McGlinchey looks to me like a guy. When I watch his tape, I can obviously tell why he was a first round pick. You see him getting to the second level effortlessly. He's big, he's strong, everything you're looking for in a prospect tackle. I just haven't seen the development I want. I'm hoping that in a new system, because he's been with the 49ers his entire career, that those skills start to develop a little more. I understand the risk, because if you go into free agency looking to lock up a long-term tackle, you're going to overpay. It just is what it is. There's no way around it. Tackle is at such a premium position that if you get a top 15 tackle, you're going to pay him like a top 10 tackle. If you get a top 10 tackle, you're going to pay him like a top 5 tackle. Just how it works. So I'm not like really worried about it. I think the Broncos will be fine at tackle. I am more excited about it now that they added Cam Fleming than I was before, for sure, though.
Go ahead, Brandon.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the bar was very high there, to be honest. I mean, Cam Fleming, I agree. Cam Fleming has been easily the best right tackle we've had in recent memory. Like, that's been a complete dumpster fire. Right. For lack of a better term, it's been a turnstile in every possible bad way. So, I mean, I agree with you. Like, I think having Mike McGlinchey at least is an upgrade. I don't know. Again, actually, I agree. I don't know how much of an upgrade I would say he is either. I would say I think he's a better run blocker from what I've seen. Like, Mike McGlinchey is probably one of the best run blockers at tackle in the league, which we clearly have a theme that we're going for here on this offense, and we've talked about this at length. But between him, we've already talked about Chris Manhurst was brought in just specifically for run blocking. Ben Powers, the other, I mean, I know we're talking about tackles right now, but the other offensive lineman that we brought in, not as good at run blocking, but like still as like Mike McGlinchey comparatively, but still a pretty good run blocker. But yeah, I mean, like, the pass pro is my, I don't know if I would want to say concern, but I feel like Cam Fleming and McGlinchey are either very comparable, or honestly, I think Cam Fleming might be better, at least a little bit at pass pro than Mike McGlinchey is. And we, I guess we really, really value run blocking. And like you said, like, it's impossible to not overpay a free agent tackle. But I look at that contract and it just kind of stings a little bit. It just stings would I have rather brought back Cam Fleming and then maybe drafted someone? Yeah, I wouldn't hate that idea, to be honest with you. The depth I know kind of sucks. Like, I do really like having Cam Fleming as a backup, because he's like a starter level player. Like, he can go in and start if for whatever reason you lose Mike McGlinchey. I mean, it's going to suck because it's going to be a lot of cap space on IR, but you have a guy that could come in and do at least a serviceable job replacing him, which is hard to do on the offensive line in general. But we've especially had kind of difficulty there. So I kind of agree with you. I like Mike McGlinchey. I think we drastically overpaid for him. I think he's a really good run blocker. I just don't like his pass protection, and hopefully maybe it was coaching and maybe that gets better. I mean, we've already know about the coach that he had in San Francisco, but we've heard the reviews, we have the receipts. But I don't know. I that's what I really want to see. I mean, I trust Sean Payton. If this was Sean Payton's guy, I'm all for it. So.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, in terms of, I know we say that the right tackle position hasn't necessarily been solved per se, or that Cam Fleming may have been the best right tackle. I think to a certain extent, though, like we kind of forget about Bobby Massey and DeMar Dotson, and and they now granted they were definitely vets, but they were also band-aids.
Yeah.
And band-aids is probably the right word in the sense, like, because again, like the right tackle position, maybe more so than quarterback, has been the greatest, turnstile, comparatively on that roster on the offensive side of the ball. And so I think that it also is kind of like the hand you're forced in that sense. Like, obviously, when you have the Walter Penner group, you are probably expecting them to spend money. And with the right tackle position being that glaring need, they spent that money on a guy who was probably expected to get that kind of money or close to that kind of money, should I say, like in the offseason. But I'm kind of curious to see, what he's going to be able to do. And Joey, with you being a little bit of a film guru, if you will, how much of the change in style for the system, because this is something that I've been kind of curious of, is like, what if it's like that he maybe is just best. So he definitely struggled in pass protection some with the 49ers, but with maybe the Broncos going to a little bit more of a athletic type of style, like maybe what is it? The wide zone is kind of maybe what they're going for. Right.
It's going to be various different things. I think if you look at the running backs the Broncos have added, Samaje Perine, and then you have Javonte Williams, I think we're looking at more of a gap scheme, truthfully, more than anything, Cam.
Is that different than San Francisco?
I think it is a little different than San Francisco.
San Francisco read a lot of like outside
zone. A lot of outside zone.
So
Mike McGlinchey,
but a lot of inside zone as well.
Damn.
Mike McGlinchey, where his strength is, and you can absolutely tell, and this is why I was saying earlier that you can tell he was a first-round prospect, right? Is his ability to get down the field at his size is ridiculous. That's his biggest strength, where it's like, oh, this guy looks like if he lost 30 pounds, he could be a tight end out there. You know what I'm talking about? He is fast. He
kind of like Garrett Bowles.
Yes.
He's like the right tackle, Garrett Bowles kind of.
He is very similar, truthfully. I think his biggest issue, Cam, at this point is he is so big, and not just like in weight, but height, right? I think he's like 6'7", 6'6", somewhere around there. His center of gravity, when you're that tall, really hard to leverage. If you played football since you were young, you'll always hear lowest man wins, right? When you're 6'6", 6'7", you're going to get pushed back in your quarterback a lot unless you can really sit down in your pass pro and level your center of gravity. And I think that's his biggest weakness right now. You see him sometimes overcompensating for it, and then he'll get beat outside. And then when he doesn't, he's so tall, he just gets blown up right through the middle, bull rush. I'm hoping that's, Colton Miller is a guy that's really tall for the Raiders, right? He's done great. Trent Brown is a guy really, really big. He's done great. It's just, I think, I hope that he adjusts to the coaching. Now, he's had great coaching years in the past. He obviously comes from a Notre Dame system that just pumps out offensive line year after year after year. San Francisco, amazing with offensive linemen. So it's hard to bet on, but I hope that a coaching change helps him quite a bit. I think he is a good tackle. It's just, you know what it is, guys? It's the level of competition at tackle in the NFL. It's just not very great. So when you get a guy that's top 15, he might not look great to you in your eyes. He still is top 15, though. It's just because all the other tackles are even worse.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, top 5, top 15. Exactly. So fun fact, Zach Strief is 6'7".
Yeah. Yes, he is.
Could be some valuable experience there. As a former player, obviously.
So now moving it to the inside, gone is the local product of Dalton Reisner. Dalton Reisner's gone. He is still on the market. Maybe the Broncos decide to kick the tires back on Reisner as a depth piece, as far as a guard depth piece. But I mean, does he still look for that starter money? I don't know. That's something that he would probably, have to consider himself between he and his agent. But with the way things currently are now, I doubt it. However, the Broncos went out and decided to solidify that left guard position and bring a little bit more power to that left guard spot. and went out and brought Ben Powers, who might actually end up being the best left guard in the game today, or best guard in the game today. At least contracts early would say that, right? So they brought him in again, solidifying that offensive line. He's going to be your starter left guard. Quinn Miners is going to be your right guard, and going to be interesting to see what he can do. Right, basically entering the third year, right? The third year for him, and especially another offensive line coach. It's going to be interesting to see what he can do. And of course, maybe the greatest question mark, greatest is probably the wrong word, but the biggest question mark, and when you mentioned Luke Wattenberg earlier, is Lloyd Cushenberry. And if you could probably predict maybe one where there's a change potentially, on this offensive line, I think it's pretty easy to look no further. And, then that center position, right?
Is that on my boy, Alex Forsyth? Just kidding. He's a rookie. No, I will say this, though. The run blocking on the right side of the line is going to be fun to watch. Like Quinn Miners and Mike McGlinchey, yes, please. I just inject it into my veins. That's going to be fun.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Brandon. I think Ben Powers is my favorite signing of this. Powers is my favorite signing of this entire offseason. Truthfully, when I watched his film of last year, it's really hard to find. Yeah, it's the Ben Powers has the best name in football, playing offensive guard. Let's start there.
Does it not scream football player? And two, does it not scream the name of a football guard?
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah. It totally does. Ben Powers, and I think he lives up to it. He's fantastic. I think he's smart. I think whenever you see a stunt on the inside, he's picking it up. I think that while he isn't the most athletic, like when you watch McGlinchey, he pops downfield. He's hitting his landmarks. He can make plays happen down the field, hitting linebackers that just other offensive linemen cannot. Ben Powers isn't that guy, but he knows exactly where to be. I don't know how else to say it. It's like, if I'm making it basketball, if we have any basketball fans in the chat right now, it's, a lot of people say Jokic isn't the best defender, but Jokic just happens to be in the right spot at the right time. It's high IQ play. That's Ben Powers down the field, making blocks down the field. He knows where the linebacker's supposed to be, so he's going to meet him there. That's his downfield blocking. I think in pass blocking, he's terrific. He could really sit down and sit on people. The one thing that is worrisome about him is that when you go a year past that, it's not as good. The pass blocking isn't as great. Now, I would like to say he's still entering his prime. He's still a younger player, right? He's not super old. It's not like we're talking about a 33-year-old one-year wonder here. It aligns with him just improving his game. And that's what I'm going with. So I think Ben Powers is my favorite signing of this offseason. I think he's going to be a terrific addition to this Broncos team. And honestly, I think he's going to be a lot better than Dalton Reisner was. I thought Dalton Reisner was cool. I thought Ben Powers is really, really good.
He started out well, at least, for Reisner.
Yeah.
Ben Powers is like, you could make an argument was the best guard available in the league this year in free agency. I think he had again, put as much stock into this as you will, but PFF gave him like an 86.5 pass blocking grade, which is nuts. The nice thing about Ben Powers, it was kind of interesting to me when I looked at it. Obviously, is by far more of a left guard, but he has actually played like fairly meaningful snaps at right guard too. Like if you need him there, God forbid if you need him there, but I think it was 2020, he had like 500 snaps at right guard. I know he's kind of playing there a little bit. I think last camp too. So a little bit of like versatility there. Ben Powers, I think fantastic. Just a solid guard, which like, I know it sounds like I'm saying just like, oh, he's meh, but just like as a guard, that's like probably one of the best compliments that you can get. Yeah. No, I'm not worried. He's the kind of guard that you just like put him in there and just forget about it. You're just like, nope, we're good. Left guard is good, which is, amazing. I feel like
injuries.
Just the damn center position, man. That center position is just such a question mark for me, to be honest. Like if we had a stud center, that we knew was a stud. This interior offensive line, I could make a fair case that it might be the top 3 interior offensive line in the league.
No, I think you're right, man.
But just like the freaking center, like if we had Corey Lindsley at center, or if we had like
Ben Jones,
yeah, or like Creed Humphrey. God, I know I'm only saying like AFC West rivals, like Linderbaum. This interior offensive line would be chef's kiss. So that's just my one worry. Is Lloyd? I don't know, man. Step it up. No, I love Ben. Just like you can't miss. Like you can't miss with that signing. So I think it's going to be no excuses. No excuses. And Russ, I mean, Russ made the line look worse than it really was last year, which, I mean, is still saying something. But actually, I've seen multiple places now rank us as either a top 10 offensive line or just outside the top 10. Do you guys agree with that? I mean, I feel like it's a little premature since none of these people have, like, we've seen them play a snap as a Bronco, but it's definitely a leap.
It depends for me. I think that if we're just looking at starting 5, if you're just looking at that starting 5, I would agree. I think the Broncos have a terrific offensive line. It's the depth for me that is very, very, very scary. Right.
Wow.
So if I go into my Madden, I turn injuries off. I'm ecstatic about this Broncos offensive line right now. Like, I'm feeling good, it's great. But the main issue is, where is our depth across this interior offensive line? It's hard. Like, if you were to go ask even like a big Broncos fan, who are some backup interior offensive linemen the Broncos like they have this year, I bet you a bunch of them would not have any idea. That's the issue with this team. Cam Fleming, great signing. Before that, it was really spooky.
Yeah.
Really spooky. It was not good. Cam Fleming, he's a swing tackle. He can go both ways, right, left tackle. We saw it last year. He did both. The interior offensive line now. I'm excited about our rookie center Forsyth. I think it's good, but I also think that if the Broncos thought he was a starting center, they probably would have drafted him maybe in the 6th or 5th round. Why did we wait until the 7th round?
Because he's there.
It's just, you have to put yourself in the brains of the GM at the time, or the head coach, or whatever the case may be. If they thought that they could get a Lloyd Cushenberry replacement, they would not have drafted him.
Well, there were some cheap center contracts given out for good centers.
No, you're totally right.
That's what I look at.
You're totally right.
But let me just come back at you with this. I feel pretty comfortable saying that probably 29 teams in the NFL have that problem. Like, offensive line depth in general, unless you're the Eagles and you just like grow it in your backyard, you're not going to have it. Especially on the interior, just everywhere, literally everywhere. It's so difficult to find.
So to bring it to Alex Forsyth, if we're going to use some Forsyth on this one, could you actually see? Yeah, Forsyth. If you could use some Forsyth on this one, do you actually think there's a chance? And I feel like there's a small Windows chance, Joey, but do you think there's a chance that Alex Forsyth could be starting week 1?
I don't. I really just don't. I don't think, like I said earlier, I think if the Broncos thought they had a starting center, especially as a rookie, they would have drafted him earlier. It's just that simple. I think they drafted other guys planning, hey, these are development players. I think most of Broncos country has Damari Mathis starting over Riley Moss right away. I think that most people have Alex Singleton and Josie Stuhl starting over Drew Sanders right away. Everybody in their mom knew that center was an issue for the Broncos this year. You can't tell me that if the Broncos thought they had a starting center, they wouldn't have drafted him early. Like that, they just would have. They waited until one of the last picks of the draft to get this guy. Now, that's not saying that he can't go in there and prove them wrong, but that is what it would be. It would be proving the Broncos wrong. And that it is what it is. He would be doing that.
Do you?
Maybe they really like Lloyd Cushenberry
Yeah.
so much more than I do in every possible way. And to be fair, I loved Lloyd Cushenberry coming out of LSU. I was like, damn, that's a great pick.
A lot of people did.
And I still think he could turn it around, but like, yeah, he was.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that draft class because in terms of like the fact about wanting him, he went through like a murderer's row of teams that we thought were going to take him. I think what was it? It was the Jets. It was the Cowboys. The Cowboys especially because I think like right at that point,
every pick from the Cowboys can.
It's true. We do. Cortland Sutton, Pat Surtain. Although they drafted Micah Parsons, so I mean it's not that total. Yeah, that ended up.
They got Dak. They got Dak.
Yeah.
He missed his flight to Denver. Couldn't come for his pre-draft visit.
Right. But I think the only scenario that the only few scenarios that I can actually see Forsythe taking the starting job on week 1 is if it's injuries. They don't trust Wattenberg, like truly, like to be that guy to back up Cushenberry. And then of course the fact that he is just dominant the moment he steps to the field in training camp. Like it's very clear that he's a different type of center compared to Cushenberry and Wattenberg and anybody else. That it's very obvious that he's the starting center week 1, right? Like it's almost like those guys that like you basically like toted off as like these star potential guys, right? But they're built different the moment they step on the football field. So it's like that's the only thing I can think of for Forsythe. It's like you just can clearly tell that he is the best center from day 1.
Yeah, and that's hard to do in training camp, especially with how contact in training camp at this point isn't really a thing. That would have to happen in
a third of the
preseason too, right?
Snaps.
No, you're totally right. I think it would have to. I think both you guys are right. I think it would have to come in a preseason setting. That's the only way you can win or really win an offensive line job is in the preseason because you're not going to get that stuff other than just how smart you are. There are situations in training camp where the defense is going to run a stunt. Hey, how does that guy pick that up? Situations like that. But offensive line is one of those positions where you're not really going to be able to tell how somebody blocks until it's live action. Mm-hmm. And that's also, I think, the reason why we're not seeing as many good offensive linemen in the NFL today as we did in years past is because how do these guys improve? How do these guys improve at this point? If you're a backup in the NFL, how do you improve at offensive line without getting live snaps? It's impossible. It's hard to tell, everything like that. I think that Forsythe, he would have to win it in preseason setting. And I also think that Lloyd Cushenberry would have to play bad. And he has, so, it could happen.
So here's something that Brandon and I...
So hold on. So if Alex Forsythe comes in preseason, pulls a Terrell Davis on special teams, you're not putting him in there week 1?
The center at gunner. You know what? If he does that, dude, I'm all in on Forsythe. Put him in the Hall of Fame. It is. It is.
If Alex Forsythe comes out week 1 preseason and does that, I will buy and eat a pair of limited edition Jordans.
Yeah, totally. Forsythe has a punt return for a touchdown. Mark it in the books. It's done. He's the starting center for as long as he wants to.
I just see this video of him like Terrell Davis just running as a gunner and just like, as fast as could be and just like laying a guy out like Vince Papali and Invincible.
I would buy a Forsythe jersey immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately.
You would probably allow
before the guy hits the ground.
It would be the first center jersey in that team shop ever.
Right.
Yeah.
And the unfortunate thing is he's not number 69. It's Mike McGlinchey that's 69. Yeah. So I think we feel pretty comfortable now talking about the offensive line. Let's go a little bit on the defensive side. The defensive line, or particularly defensive line and the pass rush, kind of like merging a little bit into one. Let's start first with the pass rush. We've talked about it a little bit in terms of the wide receiver. It feels like a pretty nice comparison in the sense of like you can see the boom and you can also see the potential bust potential in terms of the room. And thankfully they were able to bring in a guy like Frank Clark, and really boost that depth, if you will. But for you, Joey, I know I mentioned it for you guys' show in terms of some people that are like a star potential or a player who can potentially turn himself into a star. And I know it's maybe not a favorable player to say, considering he's 28, 29 years old. But he's had an injury-plagued career so far. But the moment he steps on the field and you see what he can produce on the field, he's a dynamic player. He's a great player. In fact, if you go look at some of the weeks that he played in the early part of this last season, you can make the argument that he was maybe the best player next to Pat Surtain in the first couple weeks of the season. So adding in a Randy Gregory and the impact that he can potentially make for a full season, I think would be great for this team.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agree with you. I mean, I think Randy Gregory, if we're going completely off talent, if I could guarantee you that, again, I'm going to turn off the injuries in Madden. How do we do that?
Right.
I think Randy Gregory is one of the top 3 defensive players on this team. I truly do believe that. We saw it last year. We saw it when he was with the Cowboys. This guy is fantastic when he's on the field. His motor doesn't stop running whatsoever, like at any point in the game. And then he has the talent to match it. He's a terrific, terrific talent. The main thing at this point is, how many times does he have to prove to us that he can't stay healthy for us to believe it? That's kind of the thing. I love Randy Gregory. I was super hyped when the Broncos got him. There were a lot of people saying, hey, this is a big injury risk. I was just sitting there watching the film talking about, I don't care. That's what I was saying at the time, because this guy's that good.
Joey goes through life with injuries turned off.
Yeah. Sliders, all the sliders, just basically turned off,
Yeah, turn them all off, because if Randy Gregory could play,
do you bowl with bumper plates up?
Yeah. I really think Randy Gregory, when he plays, is one of the best pass rushers in the league. And I won't hesitate saying that. I think he's that good. I can't bet on his health at this point. And it's sad to say, I just cannot. It's all good and everything until he's a Bronco and it happens to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it happened to us last year. I hope Randy Gregory, I really, really, really hope that he has a healthy year this season. I just can't bet on it. As far as the rest of the Broncos roster, Baron Browning, potential out the roof. Again, I'm going to say it, though. Injury issues. It's happened every year since he's been in the league now. It's scary. I think the guy is a terrific talent. I think he could be an elite pass rusher with the ability that he has. We saw it. I mean, I could flash back to the Colts game last year where he had all those pressures. I think he had a couple sacks. He was fantastic. And then I want to highlight, though, my man, the guy that I think is the most consistent throughout the entire edge room, and that's Jonathan Cooper.
Agent Zero.
I do. I think that he's the most consistent of the edge rushers on this roster. If I could bet on any one edge rusher being the guy this year, it would be Jonathan Cooper.
Ooh,
I can't. I mean, how could I feel comfortable putting money on any other player? Nick Bonito, what has he shown me at this point? Randy Gregory, can I bet on the injuries? Baron Browning is recovering from injury right now. Jonathan Cooper is a mix of both. Hey, he can help in the run and he can help in the pass. That I don't feel comfortable with Baron Browning or Nick Bonito at this point. I think they're both pure pass rushers, where I think Jonathan Cooper can do a little of both. And I think he's kind of underestimated. I say the same thing with Tim Patrick all the time. It's something with these undrafted, or in Jonathan Cooper's case, 7th round pick guys, where we want to put their potential down really low. And I just want to ask why. Why is their ceiling that low? Can someone give me a reason? Like, what exactly is the reason of this is his cap? I think Jonathan Cooper can be a good pass rusher. Can he be elite? I would say probably not. But can he be a starting level or a rotation level edge? I think he can. And that's questions I have for the rest of the guys on this roster, to be honest.
You know, it's interesting that you bring up Jonathan Cooper, though, because I think that, to be fair, myself included, maybe even forgets a little bit about it. But, if you think back to, what was it, the game that Von Miller got injured in, or he was traded. It was the game that either they traded him, and it was the time when Jonathan Cooper was like the replacement for that game. And he played exceptionally well. It may have been the Thursday night game. against the Cleveland Browns, I think, if I'm not mistaken, or something along the lines of that. But like he played out of his mind. I think Pro Football Focus graded him at like about a 90 or so, like in terms of like a pass rush grade. But like there were a few times where he could have had 3 sacks in that entire game, but you could see the relentless effort, the motor just never stopped. And if you think back to even when he was coming out of college, like there were some people, that were probably feeling like there were far more consistency to his game to be a 7th round draft pick. And so to see him be a 7th round draft pick was a little bit surprising, and, a 6th or 7th round draft pick. And so where he is, and the fact that he's in a room that is now vulnerable, where he can take that step and maybe become that consistent pass rusher, to what you say, Joey, like it would not be a surprise to me if he's that kind of guy that does take that leap in that room.
I mean, well, I would go ahead, Brandon. Sorry, I don't mean to.
I was gonna say, I just think the door is wide open for Jonathan Cooper. I love Jonathan Cooper.
Totally.
Like, do I have some? Does that give me chills to say that because of just like the question marks of the entire room in front of him? Yes, but
a
little bit. But Jonathan Cooper, I mean, you said, I mean, like I literally don't have anything to add, which pisses me off because I was going to say I love Jonathan Cooper so much, but no, I mean, dude can ball out. You know who I'm really interested in seeing this year though is I want to know what Zach Allen does, because Zach Allen, he had like a by far career year last year. Like he's that guy that's kind of gotten better every year, and then last year he had like the breakout year. Just does it continue is what I want to know, because if it does, then I think they got an amazing player, and like I love that for them. And obviously he is familiar with Vance Joseph, and Vance Joseph is familiar with him and his defense. But I want to know what happens there, because if he continues along the path that he's kind of been on, I think it definitely improves the floor of the room, which I would say is the downside of this room is like the ceiling is huge, but the floor is like totally abysmal, right? Which like, again, scares me to say, but I think Zach Allen could definitely help raise the floor if he continues in the way that he's been going. So that's just kind of what I wanted to say there. I mean, I love Jonathan Cooper. I honestly I wouldn't even be surprised if, and this would probably come down to like, again, an injury or something, but could Jonathan Cooper straight up be a starter for us this year at edge? Because I feel like it could happen.
Yeah, I think so.
Again, it would kind of probably suck. The path that got there in front of him, but
no, you're not wrong. Here's the question that I have. Like, if I were to go back through history, how many notable Jonathan Cooper bad games have we seen since he's been a rookie? That's the main thing. There's been games where he's meshed in, where it's like, okay, he hasn't done a lot good, he hasn't done a lot bad, where it's like Jonathan Cooper was out there games. I can go through the other edge rushers on this team, and I can definitely be like, I can name you 3 or 4 other than Randy Gregory just because of injuries. But if I'm talking Baron Browning, Nick Benito, I can name snaps where it's like, ooh, he's not ready yet. Where that's not a strong suit.
I don't disagree with you, but just to take a devil's advocate position, I would say that the sample size on those other players is much larger.
Yeah,
like they just played more of the snaps. But I don't disagree. Jonathan Cooper doesn't miss, like literally, like he doesn't do anything bad. He's never had it bad. Like he's never been a liability on the field.
Totally. It's like,
which unfortunately, again, I can't say about almost anyone else.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
So I was actually thinking, Brandon, you were going to bring this guy up, but in terms of the pass rush and of course the defensive line, I'm really kind of curious to see what the Broncos do with Drew Sanders. And this is kind of like the Baron Browning discussion to a certain extent in this, because you think back to when Baron Browning was drafted, you didn't necessarily know how they were going to use him. And, because a lot of people thought like he was a Micah Parsons type coming out of college. And Drew Sanders is kind of getting somewhat of that same treatment But you almost wonder now with Baron Browning solidifying his pass rush side of things, do they still dabble, if you will, with Sanders as a pass rush guy early on?
I really wanted to bring him up.
So I'm really curious what you think, with this, Joey, because like I feel like early on he could be one of those guys that's like a chess piece in a certain way, like like in the early part of his career, how they use him, kind of like in certain games where you saw him chase down Bryce Young, in some of the film that you certainly saw with him. So I'm curious what you think with the Sanders in the early part of his career.
No, yeah, I love Drew Sanders. I really, really do love Drew Sanders. That's my favorite draft pick of this year's class. I think that he's fantastic. I'm really excited to watch him this year. Cam, to your question there, I think it's important the Broncos staple down a position for him and then work from there. If you look at like Isaiah Simmons, for example, right, from Arizona, that was a big – I mean, I wasn't a big fan of his coming out of college because I was like, okay, where exactly does he play?
Mm-hmm.
Where does he play? Is he a linebacker? Because if he's a linebacker, I have question marks at here, and here. If he's a safety, I have questions at here, and here. And you've seen it. It really hasn't worked out. One thing I will say is Vance Joseph loves himself a versatile linebacker. We're talking about Zaven Collins, Isaiah Simmons. Yeah. Here we are now. I think that he is an inside linebacker off the bat, and you work from there. You blitz him. I wouldn't put him at much at edge until he staples down that inside linebacker role, truthfully. Because I just want these players, man, they're playing at the highest level ever. NFL is crazy. It's insane for me to ask a guy, you have to be good at two positions. That just sounds insane.
Yeah.
Does that not sound crazy? Like, who am I to ask this guy? You're at the highest level of your competition ever, and you have to know completely two different skill sets.
Welcome to the NFL, buddy.
It's nuts. Yeah. I just want him to play inside linebacker, get good at that, and then maybe once he's good at that, I can move him and say, hey, you know what? You're really talented at this other position. Go pass rush a little bit from the edge. I think he's an inside linebacker off the bat. I think his length and athleticism pops for sure, both of them. His length is terrific. When he's out there, his tackling radius is crazy. That's something that pops immediately for him. And, if you want to use some of those pass rushing skills, I'd blitz him. The Broncos did a ton last year. It brought the most out of Alex Singleton, and I don't see why Drew Sanders can't even be better at that.
Yeah, no, I really wanted to bring him up. The only reason I didn't is like I was going to say I want to know what he does. Like I just want to know how they play him because we talk about like the whole, we're going to play him here, but then we're going to play him here. And that just like when they were doing that with Baron Browning, I was scared. I was like, you're going to ruin this guy. I don't like this. Pick something because if you're going back and forth like this, one, again, you're putting way too much pressure on a rookie.
Yeah.
But then you're also like, you're going to get like, obviously you're going to get diminished returns, but it's not even in the sense of like, okay, well, you play him two positions. You're going to get 50% of inside linebacker, 50% of outside linebacker. That's not even how it works. You're going to get like 30-20 maybe. Like you're just completely, shooting yourself in the foot, as it were. And like just on a complete non-NFL note, there's actually been studies, I don't know if you guys know this, that like it's literally not possible to multitask. You don't actually multitask. You just quickly change your focus between two things, and it hurts you. It hurts you in like the big picture because you're not actually putting all of your focus on one thing. And I just feel like that's, take that, crank it up to 15, and that's what you're doing at the NFL level. So I really want to know what they do with him. That's why I didn't really want to – I wasn't comfortable bringing him up in that room because I was like, I don't know. I mean, right now he's listed as inside linebacker. So I agree with Joey. Like, I feel like you need to put him in one place and let him stay there for a little bit. But I'm just the potential is –
it's
juicy.
Awful.
It's dripping.
I love it.
I'm tantalizing. I'm so excited to see what he does. Like, bro, played in 12 games. He had 13 and a half tackles for a loss and 9.5 sacks. Like, that's disgusting.
No, it is.
Say whatever you want about the level of competition.
Brandon, you're absolutely right. He tied. He had the most. He was tied with the most sacks in the SEC last year. That's crazy.
Arkansas
For an inside linebacker.
He had a team leading 103 tackles too. He led the team in tackles.
Exactly. He is a talent. I am really, really excited to see Drew Sanders. I've been arguing with people about this all the time. I am bullish about Drew Sanders and his potential. My only worry is Vance Joseph. I'll be honest. He's drafted like 5 of these guys.
God, that does scare me. I didn't think about that until now. And now,
exactly. And none of them turn out to be that guy.
Oh, why did you do me like that, man? So I literally wasn't even thinking about that until just now. I'm like, fuck, is Isaiah Simmons is the thing? Isaiah Simmons exists. David Collins exists.
Similar.
No.
If there's a linebacker that Vance Joseph likes, he looks a lot like Drew Sanders. I just hope one of these guys works out.
Vance Joseph ruins Drew Sanders for me. I'm out.
Yeah,
peace.
Exactly.
Get out of my town.
So, I think the one thing that really is in Sanders' favor to your inside linebacker point, because I agree with you. I think he's better suited for that inside linebacker position, is the fact that Baron Browning made that transition to pass rusher. I think, and so the fact that they put Browning like solely as that pass rusher now, I think open that door for them to truly use him, within that inside line. And plus, you have the contract dispute, or what could be a contract dispute with Josie Jewell down the line, considering he's an impending free agent after this season. And, maybe that was something that was like in their thinking, if you will. Totally. So going a little bit more into the defensive line, you got guys like Mike Purcell, who apparently, according to some people with social media or anything, like they just have this idea that every single year Mike Purcell is always on the cut list or he's always on the bubble, but he always finds a way. And so I'm really curious to see what he can be able to do, this year, and then you got DJ Jones, and curious to see what he can be able to provide as far as being a flexible piece. Cause he's certainly a big individual, but you and I have had this conversation a little bit too, Joey, but it's like, he's basically giving you way more than probably what Jarrell Casey was supposed to give you. Like in terms of like, because Jarrell Casey was this like athletic guy, the athletic defensive tackle, that the Broncos had not had, and unfortunately due to injury. And he was definitely up there in age too, but like he was an athletic defensive tackle, and unfortunately just never worked out. But DJ Jones, he gives you that, athletic run stuffer that you could pair with Mike Purcell. So I'm curious, at least with the interior, and of course with Zach Allen now. We brought him up earlier, but like curious what you think about somewhat of the interior of that defensive front. And, Owazariki, of course, as well, and Henningsen.
Yeah. Damn it, I was going to say Henningsen. I was going to say that, and you brought it up at the very end. Yeah. I really want to know what happens with Matt Henningsen.
I'm excited to hear what happens with Matt Henningsen, too. He's a guy that has a lot of potential in him. I think more than Owazariki. I think when I look at the age of Owazariki, so if you're just looking at, the athleticism and the size of Owazariki, you're sitting there like, damn, this guy could be a monster. But when I'm looking at the age, it's like, okay, how much better has he gotten since like his junior year of college? And I just haven't seen those gradual steps of improvement. So for me, with him, he's in the boat where he's gonna have to prove me wrong. I hope Owazariki works out. Man, Henningsen, though, on the other end, I'm excited
Henningsen
for him.
Sacked Justin Herbert. Oh,
yes. I think that Henningsen could turn out to be a pretty good player. Drafted later than Owazariki last year, ended up being the one that was above him on the depth chart. That's telling. Draft status does matter, especially during your rookie year. Who plays first? As a GM, you don't want to say I was wrong. And that's essentially what happened there.
Wasn't he on the all-rookie team?
What was that?
Wasn't he on the all-rookie team, if I'm not mistaken?
I don't know. I have no idea, bro.
I thought there was something that came out like as far as like the rookie team. I forget who put it out there. I don't know if it was It wasn't AP, but someone put it out there like they did an all rookie team of like the first and second team or something like that. And obviously, and I think Henningsen was on that, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Well, hey, good looks. If he got on there, good job, because he could end up being a good player. He has the athleticism and the potential to be really good, and I also think that he was more consistent than Owazurike was last year in his job. I think it's worrisome that you have guys that are drafted in like the 5th and 6th round as your main depth pieces next year. That's a little scarier. But, you know, it's a little scary. It definitely is a little scary having guys that are drafted so late going into your second year, kind of unproven. And those are your main depth pieces. I want to say about the starting lineup, though. I think it's terrific. I think Zach Allen's a good player. I think DJ Jones is awesome. I think he's really, really awesome. You know, what I was talking about earlier about Mike McGlinchey, where I always said lowest man always wins. He has that in his back pocket because he's like 6'2", 300 pounds, right? He's always shorter than the guy. He gets under guys' shoulder pads, drives them back so easily. And he's a terrific player, DJ Jones. I'm excited to see him next year. He's a guy that I think can play all the positions across your interior defensive line. I don't think there's one position that he can't play. His versatility is awesome up there. He's awesome. Can I ask you guys a question real quick, though?
Absolutely.
Cool. I want to ask you guys, as we are talking about interior defensive line, if I could guarantee health and everything like that, would you rather have Draymond Jones or Zach Allen?
Is that a real question?
I just want to ask. I'm trying to figure out if the Broncos improved across the interior defensive line or got worse. So I think that's the main trade-off that you're doing there. Or is it equal? It could be equal as well.
I would take Draymond now. Right now in this conversation, I would take Draymond Jones.
Yeah.
This is kind of what I was saying earlier about Zach Allen is like, does he continue to improve you can't always improve every single year. If you can, holy shit. But last year was definitely his career high, and maybe it was, a sign of what's to come, and he's just going to keep being that guy. But was it a fluke? I don't know. So I just Draymond Jones was just so good. I think I'd rather have Draymond right now. If we revisit this conversation after the season, could I answer change? Maybe.
Mm-hmm. I think that, because I will have to say this. Are we adding in, maybe like some of the extracurricular stuff or like the off the field stuff like added to this? Because obviously, now granted, that was more heightened in the off season in the trade to the signing, I should say, the free agent signing to the Seahawks, right? So like that, so taking that part out of it, I would probably
purely off play. Who would you rather have?
I would probably go with Draymond.
Okay, so here's the next thing I'm going to follow up with, and this is what scares me. The Broncos lost their main backup on the interior defensive line. Who's replacing that guy? Who do you guys have replacing that guy, and do you guys think that guy could be as good as Deshaun Watson?
Yeah, I think I think
that's that on the grounds that I don't want to.
That's what's kind of scary about the interior defensive line. Did the Broncos get a ton worse? I think depth wise, yes. I think starting wise, it's kind of up in the air. I'd say yes. So, like, what am I expecting across this interior defensive line? What is expectation? You know what I mean? That is my big worry, where it's like, okay, that looks like a decrease from last year.
Let me ask you this question.
Okay.
Which depth scares you more on which line?
Which depth scares?
I think like defensive line or offensive line depth?
This is tough.
See?
Do I want? Here's the main issue.
I'm scared, man.
Let's talk about it. Well, I mean, we got like 5th and 6th round sophomore players on on defensive line. Then offensive line, we're talking about Wattenberg and Forsyth. We're talking about 6th and 7th round picks in their sophomore year or rookie year across the O-line. I would say I have a little more faith in Matt Henningsen than I do on the interior offensive line. Either of those players, Wattenberg didn't prove much to me. I think Forsyth has shown me enough in college to where I feel comfortable with you as a backup in my mind, but I still have to see it on the NFL field. You know what I mean? That's like a big adjustment. I have fallen in players in the draft all the time, and those guys end up not doing well. So I'm going to go interior defensive line just off of Matt Henningsen. I have more confidence in than these others guys, but I'm really not picking out of options. I feel I'm really not.
I will say the interior defensive line, but so as well, but and because like we obviously talked about him with Matt Henningsen, but I was actually gonna use this comparison a little bit too, because you were talking about Jonathan Cooper, kind of comparing him a little bit to like a Tim Patrick type, right? Like the like in terms of like how you were to do a
hero, man.
But I think that I don't know what it is about Big Ten players, but like I kind of see that a little bit too. If you're looking at a Matt Henningsen, like he's Mr. Consistent. He can get the job done. He literally can do some of the dirty work if you need him to. Like, and so if you need that type of player, and it's one of the reasons why, you probably want to trust that kind of player more than say an Awazarike, right? And so I think that for that kind of stuff, I am far more comfortable saying the interior defensive line. And I think that too, if we're going off of history, the defense is clearly showing us way more than the interior offensive line in terms of like the center position, right? So I mean, like, I far more trust what is going on the interior defensive line than what is happening on the interior offensive line.
No, yeah, I think that's a good answer, Cam. I do think that's a good answer. I mean, I think Awazarike has showed me more to this point than Luke Wattenberg has.
How do you feel about Jonathan Harris?
Jonathan Harris, he's a guy that can play a little bit.
He's okay.
Yeah.
Been around.
I just wish the Broncos, it really doesn't feel like they added many vets this offseason. I think Frank Clark was like the first guy where it was like, oh, they added a vet to the locker room, a guy that we know what he is. They added guys that I feel like they can add around in the future, but they didn't add any of those, hey, we signed this guy to a 1 or 2 year contract. And he's 30 years old, guys.
Zach
on either side.
Zach brings up this. He says, this is to the Deshaun Williams point. And by the way, Zach is Manley Broncos royalty, by the way.
Let's talk Broncos.
Was Deshaun Williams that good? Love you, Joey. Or was it coaching plus the guys around him? He says, honest question. He was a journeyman washup before landing in Denver and never really cracked the starting rotation. And like, to continue this, it is weird because like, if you look at his career, Deshaun Williams, when you look at it, has really only succeeded with one location. So the journeyman part kind of stands a little bit, but if there's one area where he really succeeded and really excelled, it was with the Broncos.
You're right, but he had a little stay in the Broncos, right? Like it wasn't like he had this 1 year with the Broncos. He was here for a couple years, and the guy was good. And it was
he was here for a couple
range.
Years, but he had one really good year and a couple of
he was cool type years.
He was cool.
He existed. He did stuff.
Yeah, I still though, even that he was cool type years, I would take over what we have now. I would. That's kind of my point. Like at least I know what I'm getting. Like I just want something.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair. That's fair. I so badly just want Matt Henningsen to pop off so I can call him Matt Hennessy. That's all I want in life.
Yeah. No, I respect that. I would love Matt Henningsen to pop off. I think Matt Henningsen has a higher ceiling than Deshaun Williams. I will say that.
Okay. I mean, this is on record. I mean, you have officially said that Henningsen, may have a better career than Deshaun Williams. So
my podcast co-host, Frankie Abbott, we do podcasts every single Thursday.
that's right.
He has met Matt Henningsen multiple times, both from Wisconsin. I guess they went to the same high school.
Small world.
I think I remember him mentioning that.
Yeah.
I think
he says he's a good guy. I'm rooting for him. You know what I mean? That's
I feel like this is a conflict of interest, though. I feel like, this is, he feels obligated to talk well about the guy. I don't know.
Yeah, I know. It's like one of those hometown hero type situations.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, is there anything else that you kind of want to, aside from, you beating a kangaroo one-on-one, which is kind of funny, by the way? Your name is Joey, and a kangaroo.
I never made that connection until just now.
And a kangaroo, right? Like the baby's called a Joey, right?
Yeah.
So I literally, it makes perfect sense that Joey would beat a kangaroo, considering Joey is a kangaroo. So, but anyway, is there anything you want to get off your chest? Like, is there something that has been festering, deep inside that you want to unleash?
I'll say this to end the podcast. I think everyone should be paying attention to how Sean Payton and the coaching staff talks about Tim Patrick. I think there's a lot of, hey, we're going to force feed this guy the ball type stuff going on. And I think that if you are in a fantasy league, you should be drafting Tim Patrick because of that, despite coming off of injury. There is a reason why this Broncos staff, and you see James Palmer talking about, he thinks that this guy is the number one wide receiver on this team. There's a reason. There is a reason. Whether that happens to be one or two, I don't know. All I'm saying is that I saw Michael Thomas catch 150, it felt like, slant routes in 1 year. So that's all I'm going to say. Draft Tim Patrick.
So what you're saying is that even though Cortland Sutton was the person that said that he has been studying Michael Thomas film, who would you say is best more suited for the for the Michael Thomas role? Is it Tim Patrick or is it Cortland Sutton? Because obviously Sutton did mention that he's been studying Michael Thomas.
I think Tim Patrick's a little more versatile than Cortland Sutton. I think Cortland Sutton is your more traditional X wide receiver. I think Tim Patrick can play a little more all over the place. So I'm going to say Tim Patrick is more of that, but I don't think either are a very great comp.
Okay. I mean, now to bring it also full circle, this is another question, and we probably should have let off with this, considering this was a pretty heated question in terms of the playmakers and and everything from the offensive side of the ball. Brandon and I had this discussion a little bit. One is, will the Denver Broncos have a 1,000-yard rusher?
No. I don't think so.
All right.
I Sean Payton.
I am not alone, Brandon. I am not alone.
Zach Seegers, who's in the chat right now, he gave me a really great comp. I forget. He listened to somebody say this, and I have to give him credit for this. But Sean Payton's always ran a very running back by committee offense. Mm-hmm. Always. This has always been something with him. He gave the comp of, I think that Samaje Perine, and Zach said this, is a Pierre Garçon type, or not Pierre Garçon. What is his name? Zach, send it in the chat right now.
What you're thinking?
Pierre Thomas.
Oh, yeah.
Who remembers Pierre Thomas?
Yeah.
Very similar to Pierre Thomas. That's his name.
Yeah.
Pierre Thomas. Man, I can't believe there's two Pierres in that. Oh, that's crazy.
The first time in
Pierre Thomas. Yeah, there you go, Zach. Pierre Thomas. He's I think very similar to that type, but he always had a Reggie Bush on him. He also had a Mark Ingram on him. These are always guys that will always come into his offense. It was like not just two running back by committee. It was always three I would be shocked if it was one guy getting the load of the carries. I think it's going to be multiple. I think even Javonte Williams, with him coming off of injury, at some point he's going to get carries. Whether he's good or not, yet to be seen. Samaje Perine, I think he's a better third down running back than he is your traditional first round running back. So I'm kind of in between there.
Yeah. So Brandon said yes. He thinks that they.
Let me back it up. Let me back that up here.
No. You said yes.
I know, but let me explain.
I respect it. I do respect.
No. I'm not backing my take up. I'm saying let me back up why I said that.
Okay, please.
All right. I just feel like, and again, I think I said this like probably 15 times at this point. Okay. With the amount that we're going to run the ball, like that was clearly the focus this offseason. We already talked about Mike McGlinchey, that whole right side of the line, run blocking, Ben Powers, we already talked about it. Just with the amount that I think they're going to lean on running the ball, I just think volume is king, and you run the ball enough and you pop off enough big runs and we have the talent to do it. I wouldn't be surprised if one of them tops 1,000 yards. I'm not saying it's, I'm not saying it's going to be some massive year. I just feel like if 1,000 is, maybe they get, 1,040. I don't know. But I just feel like it's going to happen just with the amount of volume carries that they're going to be getting. Even if it's a running back by committee, you give them, between the main two, you give them each 260 carries. I don't know. I mean, across, I don't know if that might be too high. I just feel like as much as we're going to be running the ball, the yards are going to come, and we know that both of these guys have the talent to, especially, Javonte, to pop off the big ones.
Mm-hmm.
So, and one of the reasons why I had my doubts was obviously we have yet to see a 1,000-yard season with Javonte. And for Samaje Perine, he's never done it. He's definitely shown to be a reliable back, right, when Cincinnati, when he's needed it with Cincinnati. And yeah, they definitely will run the football, but it's like I have to actually see it for me to believe the fact that they will be a 1,000-yard, rusher. And let's also not forget that they may not have this room that they have now with Tony Jones, maybe Jaleel McLaughlin, maybe they add another guy, right? Like maybe they actually add another player to that room.
I think they will. I have to say that.
Yeah, you think they will?
I think at running back, I think the Broncos will add another running back. I don't know who it is yet. They've obviously, you can't tell me that the only running back, yes, we want Dalvin Cook, but nobody else. I don't believe that. Like, sorry, if you're really that interested in that other guy,
you have a sticky note that says Dalvin Cook or bust.
Exactly. Like
Dalvin Cook, no matter what.
That isn't what's going on out here. We all know it. Stop it. Let's read in between the lines here. It's not Dalvin Cook or bust. It's the Broncos saying we think Dalvin Cook is the best running back available. That's what they're saying. I think they're going to add another vet to this room.
Stupid to not say that.
Yes,
he's obviously the best running back available.
Yeah, I think that the Broncos will add another running back. Just who? I definitely think so. I don't think, I really like Tyler Beatty. I think he's awesome. I loved him out of Mizzou. I thought he was cool. Sean Payton with he wants to play 3 running backs a lot of the time. They're going to want to add a vet. They will, especially with Javonte coming off of injury. You can't put all of your eggs in the Samaje Perine basket. That's just not going to happen. They're going to add somebody.
So Bree does ask, who will they add? I know you did mention Dalvin Cook.
Shout out to L2B in the chat.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think, because I think that there's possibly some chance that maybe we I don't know. The Kareem Hunt thing is fascinating because it's like if you look at it from like the player, right? The player, he actually would scream, right? Like kind of like what they would be looking for in terms of like a excelling pass receiving option out of the backfield.
Yeah, man, I was about to fucking ask him that. I was gonna say like, hey, just to tack on here, do you think, because we know like what Sean Payton has done with Alvin Kamara, do you think he's going to look for that kind of, because I don't know if they have it right now.
Here's the thing. Here's what I think is going to happen. I think they're looking for more of a first or second down back. That's my opinion. I think that Samaje Perine is going to fill that role that kind of you guys are thinking of a lesser degree. He's going to fill that role in a different way. I think that on third down, he's going to be a check down option, and he's going to be a terrific pass blocker. I think those are his two strongest traits. When you go back and look through that Cincinnati film, you're going to see him. He's terrific at pass blocking. He's like an extra offensive lineman out there.
He's so good.
Yeah. And then as a check down option, awesome. Who wants to go tackle that guy in open fields? Nobody. He's huge. He's massive. No one wants to tackle that guy in open field. I think what the Broncos should be looking for is a guy that a better runner of the football, honestly. I think that's what they should be looking for. And I think that's why they're going after like a Dalvin Cook.
So you don't see him being, it's like Samaje being the guy to kind of shoulder the load while Javonte gets right, because I don't think they're going to put Javonte out there and give him, 20 carries a game right away, 25 carries a game. Like, at least for the first few weeks, I've been kind of like under the idea of, okay, well, Samaje, which I've been down with. Like, I think Samaje is a good back, but you're kind of going against that. You're thinking that he's really more of the guy going to be like that late down guy, but he's not really going to be the guy that gets the carries while Javonte is still, coming back.
I think in an ideal world, no. That would be my answer. I would say so if I were looking at what he's good at versus what he excels at, in my opinion, is the pass blocking and, hey, you can be a check down option. He really excels in those two areas, in my opinion. While I think he's good in those first and second down options, he's good. I think that they should be looking for an excellent first and second down guy, a guy that can run everything out of the backfield that you're looking for, everything. Meanwhile, you have a guy that excels in those other two options. When I look at Sean Payton's running backs throughout the years, that's always something that he's done. When you look at how he used Reggie Bush, all these different guys, they've all been situational. And I think he's looking for that situational, this is our first down back. This is the guy that's going to get the load of carries. I still think he's looking for that guy.
Let's go sign Zeke. Just
kidding. Yeah. Maybe they sign Zeke to play center. There's your center depth.
Yeah.
God, no.
All right. So Zach, it's fitting to bring it up here, but he actually asks, can we get a Joey question of the day?
Damn, this is crazy. I'm on the spot. Sweating. No, just kidding. I'll ask you guys the same question that I asked tonight. I was on Let's Talk Broncos right before here. I was on with Ryan Blackburn, Nuggets podcaster for Mile High Sports. If you guys know it, go listen to that. We were comparing how the Broncos could learn from the Nuggets championship roster. Are both you guys Nuggets fans?
Oh,
bro, yeah,
bro. We literally went to Ball Arena and saw the trophy and took a picture with it.
Okay, cool.
On Ball Arena floor.
The same question that I asked them for Joey's question of the day. Who is your favorite Nugget of all time?
Favorite Nugget of all time?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good question.
I think.
So let me.
Yeah, go ahead, Brandon.
Start this by saying I don't know if I would say I'm not saying he's my favorite Nugget of all time, but I will say the Nugget that got me into the Nuggets when I was younger is definitely Melo. Like you go through all the people saying like, "Hey, I hate Melo."
Yeah,
but you know what? Respect.
Yes,
respect
sir.
Melo.
I love it. Let's go, Brandon.
Honestly,
respect.
I'm still not saying he's my favorite. I don't know if I'd go that far, but he's up there.
Into it.
He got me into it. I'd say he might be. He's probably top 3.
Honestly, agree. Let's go, Brandon. Yeah.
Favorite of all time, though. Damn.
Do you guys want me to tell you what they said?
I want to know what you said.
Okay, my favorite. I was just trying to be different a little bit. No, I'm just kidding. Mine was Chauncey Billups. Chauncey Billups was my favorite Nugget. Zach's was who was Zach's? It was Aaron Gordon. Breeze was Birdman, and then Ryan Blackburn's was Jokic.
I mean, I feel like it's gonna be Jokic. It's like, it kind of has to be at some point in the future.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Just say it. Just the guys that I've watched, though, I feel like I almost have to say Melo because He was just so into. Although I will say,
I'm not mad at it at all.
I mean, obviously he was kind of before my time, but
Yeah.
Alex English.
Alex English. Okay.
Alex English is up there.
Cool answer. I like that one. I respect that he scored. I forget. He was like top. All I know, he was the top scorers in the 80s. If you guys would go look up like your top 10 scorers of 1980s basketball, he might be really close to one.
Oh yeah.
So,
but it's gonna be Jokic. Like you carry on a couple more years. Like my answer is easily Jokic.
Yes.
So I will say, my dad's favorite Nugget of all time is David Thompson. Like he screams loudly at the rooftops with David Thompson. So I will say, so he's obviously not the best Nugget of all time, right? But I will say, in terms of like maybe like where I was and just like enjoying watching him at maybe a certain point. So maybe like he's not a favorite, but I really came to like really enjoy the guys like Andre Miller and Earl Boykins, right? Like Earl Boykins. So favorite, I probably would have to say Melo in terms of like my like this the overall.
We got two Melo fans. I respect it. Hey, you know what? I'm in the same boat as you guys. I love Melo. He was the guy that got me into the Nuggets.
Oh
yeah, so I can't hate on that at all.
I was a Nuggets fan before I was a Broncos fan.
Yeah,
actually.
But I will say though, there's some honorable mentions in the sense of like
I want someone to say Fat Lever.
I was gonna say Marcus Camby. I was gonna say Marcus Camby. Would be one like Marcus Camby. But yeah, so I mean, I don't know, like I always enjoyed watching Melo because like that was like the heat of like my basketball enjoyment. But it's very clearly like on the trend and where it's going that it's gonna end up being Nikola Jokic.
Love the
Nuggets era.
Shout out to the Nuggets era. We got Kmart, we got J.R. Smith, we got Chauncey Billups.
What about Iverson? We talk about practice, Bree.
AI.
I talk about Iverson. Practice.
I do love Iverson.
J.R. Smith, at least until Jamal Murray's layup, I think had like the best layup, or right? Like, didn't he have the 360 layup or something like in that?
He definitely had a 360 mid layup. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like up until that point, that was like maybe the best layup in Nuggets history, and then Jamal Murray went out and
Jamal Murray existed,
and then Jamal Murray existed. So yeah, I don't know. Well,
that's a good question.
So I will say though, like my favorite Nuggets moment though, aside from subtly trying my hardest to not touch the finals trophy, was probably meeting LaFonso Ellis at a Chili's.
Damn.
Yo, what? I didn't know that. Tell me about that.
So we were, I can't remember the exact time, but like we had met, or we were actually at a Chili's and we were getting ready to leave. And so, yeah, so we left and LaFonso Ellis was getting ready to come back in and I shook his hand. And all I could do was literally, as like a kid in a candy store, literally just stare at my hand. Like, what was this? Like like how huge his hand was, and where I was, like at my age and everything. I just like stared at my hand, like, what did I just shake?
That was like Von Miller.
Yeah. So that's probably my favorite Denver Nuggets story, though.
How should they handle retiring 15? It's got to be Jokic. I mean, as much as I love Melo, when they retire 15, it's for Jokic.
Retire Jokic is the right answer. I think that's all we have.
It has to be.
What else is there to say? I think that we could just dead that one.
And that just tells you how good Jokic is. Because, like, I mean, Melo's still Melo.
He is still Melo, but hey,
but it's Jokic, and it's not even a question. Like that's how good Jokic is.
I mean, no conversation. Like we don't even have to talk about this one. Jokic is number 15.
Jokic is 15.
You know, it's
I have a question for you.
I had this conversation actually with my uncle today, and I told him, I said, this is not a Frank Tripucka and Peyton Manning situation, right? Like
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Right. So, but it's just like it's clearly Jokic. Like it is very clearly Jokic in terms of like, what they should do. I will now, granted, there's not a lot of Rockies fans in the chat, but I will say, should they retire Carlos Gonzalez as number 5 or Matt Holliday as number 5?
Listen, man, I don't know anything about the Rockies.
Exactly.
I'll be honest.
So that's the ultimate number 5 question in terms of say that question.
No.
Yeah.
You guys ready for this?
No.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is going to be insane. I mean, I realize that they're completely different sports, but all said and done, which 15 had the best career? Jokic, Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, damn. Bro, we're going home team. It's Jokic. I don't even want to hear anything else.
Straight up, complete unbiased. I know they're different, obviously, sports. Or you could even say right now, like between the two, who's having the better, like who is the better respective player in their league in 15? Because I feel like, and I'm trying to be as unbiased as possible, Jokic is doing shit that has never been done before. That, I mean, I will have to buy this shirt. Not even Wilt Chamberlain.
You said Nikola Jokic and who, Brandon?
Patrick Mahomes. The 15. Who had a better, all said and done, who had a better pro career in 15? I know they're obviously completely different sports, but
this is definitely biased, but I am definitely going Nikola Jokic.
I can't wait to just hold that over Chiefs fans' heads forever. We had the better 15.
Dude, it'll be terrific. Jokic's the best basketball player in the world. It's that plain and simple. I mean, I'm running home team all day. It's Jokic.
And not to mention, we all know that Nikola Jokic, it's certainly what seemed to be a joke for many years, right? Also came true. Nikola Jokic, if we're being completely honest, has been the best quarterback in Denver sports, ever since he stepped foot on a basketball court. I mean, he's been the best quarterback. So, I mean, yeah. So I'm very clearly going Nikola Jokic over Pat.
Russell Wilson is the best Rocky, and that's saying something. Just kidding.
Can't say Pat Mahomes is the best center. You can't say it.
I can't say it. This is a fun Rockies fact, by the way. Do you guys know that the Rockies have had a better quarterback draft class?
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm aware.
Just over like they drafted Russell Wilson and they've drafted Michael Vick.
Damn, that's crazy.
That's crazy. So Bree says, can we be completely honest about Jokic being better to retire a jersey than Melo?
Yes, Bree, it's plain and simple. Guys, we don't even have to talk about this. I'll be completely honest. We don't. I'm going to just tell Bree what it is. Jokic is the better 15.
He is.
Move on to the next one. I mean, we don't even have to ask that one.
All right. Well, hey, Joey and the LTB crew for crashing.
Shout out the whole LTB crew.
Hey, thank you guys so much for chiming in and hopping on with us, Joey.
Dude, shout out to both of you guys.
Thank you so much for hopping on. I think I'm fully convinced now that you could physically beat a kangaroo. I think I'm fully convinced now.
I'm on the train. I'm on it.
Yeah, you know what it is, guys? It's a confidence issue. If you guys do not think you can beat a kangaroo, just don't put me in that box.
Just
that's all I ask for.
Just make sure that
I hope everybody, walks away from this conversation thinking that they can. I know you can. I believe in you.
Just make sure when
Yeah, exactly.
Just make sure when you set up this fight, Joey, it's a pay-per-view fight, and make sure that it's one that is also able to be streamed, of course. So make sure. But anyway, Joey, love you, buddy.
Hey,
and now,
thank you for having me.
And so now with actually the entire LTB crew, why don't you
asking randomness right now?
Why don't you kind of fill us in about some of the stuff, that maybe you guys are working on, some of the stuff that you guys got planning, in terms of training camp or anything that you guys got planned in the future?
Yeah, guys. All I'm doing is, hey, you know what? I can't speak too much about the future. Just know good things are coming. We have some things planned for Let's Talk Broncos, Zach, Bree, and I. If you want to follow me at JR Drafts. If you guys want to keep up with what is going on, what I'm speaking about right now, what the mystery is, go follow at the Let's Talk LTB podcast on Twitter. We are on there. Frankie and I are on Thursdays. Bree, Zach, and I are on Monday, Wednesday, Friday when the regular season starts. Please, guys, come join us. It's a lot of fun. And thank you guys for having me on today. It was a ton of fun. Totally great question you guys asked, everything like that. So shout out to both of you.
It's got to be one of our favorites. Certainly, it's got to be one of our favorites to date. So, thank you.
Joey goes into Madden and turns the kangaroo skills all the way up to the sliders all the way up.
No playing Joey in Madden, I guess. Yeah, he's gonna be, turn the settings, to favor him, right before you play him, so that he has that favorable, advantage. So I'm not playing Joey in Madden, that's for sure. But anyway, thank you guys so much for hopping into another episode of the Manley Broncos podcast. Follow the Manley Broncos Twitter handle, Manley at Manley Broncos. Follow the entire LTB crew. Brandon at Brandon Miller PO, myself at Cameron Parker PO. You guys are the best, and thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of the Manley Broncos podcast.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, go.